It's the Better Half series, and it's such a pleasure to have you join us wherever you are, whether you are watching or listening. I believe that your relationship is getting better. Now, if that's not the case, that's why we're here, because we believe you'll be able to glean out a few things from each discussion in every episode that will better the lot of your relationship. Is it getting better? Is it getting boring? Is it getting more fascinating? However it's going, there's always one thing or the other that you can pick out. And in this series, we have been discussing relationship stressors. What are the things that, just stress our relationship out and threaten to take the life out of what we are building? The last episode, we talked about intimacy. We've discussed communication and a few other things. But in this episode, we want to discuss parenting. What is supposed to be a joyful thing that couples should do together can also become what stresses them out to the point that they're beginning to rethink the relationship and even thinking of parenting alone or just going your separate ways. Before we get to that point of contemplation of just leaving everything, it may be better I parent my children alone, let's look at how we can just put ourselves in a better shape so that we don't ever get to that point. So parenting children together can become a stressor. Yeah.
I think many of us are very naive about the fact that parenting on its own, we don't like to use the word burden, but honestly, if we're really honest with each other, you're carrying the weight of a completely different human being. You're putting that on top of the foundation or the lack of a foundation, as the case may be, that you may have built in your marriage. And the ease with which you carry the burden is largely dependent on the strength of the foundations that you've built. So if we can just first of all get started out of the way, parenting can be a lot of work. If we even first just tune our minds into that, first of all, I think we've already set ourselves up, to even be a bit more successful with managing the stressor that parenting can be. And because, children are the heritage of the Lord, children are a gift, we're just usually in that place of denial. How can something that's such a blessing, such a joy, how can we want to categorize it as a stressor? But honestly, if we're really honest with ourselves, we need to dimension it properly and see that we are layering on the weight of a completely different entity, a completely different human being.
So what you're saying in essence is that anything that demands responsibility from us can become stressful. Yeah. And parenting is a lot of responsibility. It can be burdensome. It can drain you emotionally. It can drain you, in many other ways, even spiritually. And when you don't manage how you drain because of your parenting responsibilities, it may actually start to tell on the marriage itself.
That's true. That's absolutely true. And that's the case even if you have a child that doesn't put any extra pressure on you. Now try to even dial that up a notch when you're dealing with, say, a very headstrong or stubborn child, or you're dealing with a child with maybe special needs or some medical condition, right? And parents need to be, I think, as parents, we need to be very understanding of the context that we are in, and just understand that it will sometimes take more out of us from one scenario to the other, and just to be ready for it, to be ready to address the fact that this is going to take something out of me. The responsibility that this role requires is going to take something out of me. I can either allow it to then get in the way of what we're trying to build, or I can be intentional. Very intentional. So
how do we make sure that this does not become a stressor? That's what we're discussing. We have established the fact that this can be draining, it can be a lot of responsibility and all, and some people have found the easier way out, which is, one person is the parent, the other person is just a supporting
Just
parent.
a visiting consultant in the parenting journey.
And just
No.
and
I'm not sure you can ever get the best of your full capacity as two entities together in the journey of building and delivering, an adult, if one person is saddled with all the responsibility for parenting. I think we get the best out of it when we choose to do it together. Yeah. But then I hear you when you say that how do we then navigate this? I think number one and critical for me is for us to understand that parenting is not the marriage. And I think we get to those seasons where, especially with a newborn, this helpless, entity comes into your lives and you're just overwhelmed with the responsibility of taking care of this new person, that you forget that there has to be a marriage, a solid, strong marriage, if you're going to do this parenting thing well. So first of all, recognizing that parenting is important, but as important as it is, parenting is not the marriage, and we must continue to work on and build the marriage if we're going to do the parenting part well.
So the marriage itself is the foundation, is the bedrock for on which we layer parenting. And when we just start to focus on the parenting, sometimes we give so much attention to the children, so it's like a balancing act. When one ball is in the air, I have one in my hand, and which one am I throwing up? Which one is airborne all the time? Yeah, that is not, gaining the right kind of attention, because a lot of the time we're tempted to make sure that the kids are okay. Yeah, and the kids are okay to the detriment of, is my marriage still okay? How is my spouse feeling? What is the predominant thought in the mind of my spouse? What are the issues and the concerns of my spouse? When you have 2-3 kids and they are school-age kids, you have so many things. In some climes in North America and different other places, these kids have all kinds of activities. Yeah, from swimming to basketball to soccer to different things, and you have to be there. There are recitals, there are this, and everybody's running, helter-skelter, and woe betide you if you come late because you are not a good father or you are not a good mother. You understand what I'm saying? And all that, and everybody's just running all over the place. How does marriage play out in the midst of all that? And we can once in a while slow down and remember that we're first and foremost a couple, and we need to oil the engine of this marriage so that this thing can still continue to go on well.
Honestly, as we're even talking about it, and first of all, even just to be honest, it can be tough. It can be tough. Can we just even acknowledge it first?
No, we have acknowledged that. We have acknowledged that.
Because there are just seasons you go through in this parenting journey where it's hard not to see these little militants as the most important things in the world. Someone is crying. Someone is in pain and can't even articulate exactly what they want. You're tempted to say, at least you are an adult. You can say, and I can make meaning out of it. Let's deal with this emergency here. Let all hands be on deck. And it feels something like we're constantly in crisis mode, taking care of the children, and we forget that there are all kinds of crises that we're ignoring in our relationship. I think it's critical as well just to remember that it's seasons. There are just seasons on this parenting journey. And if we just take the long view, it kind of helps us a bit. We're not in the same space, for example, today as we were when our children were newborns. We're not in the same place today as we were when our girls were in elementary school and we had to sit with them and tirelessly push through homework every day. Now, it's possible to be in that season and feel like the world is about to end if this doesn't happen in this exact way, or if my spouse is not seeing things exactly from my point of view right now. But news flash, everyone, it's just a season. And if you navigate where you are well enough, I can guarantee you that you may just be standing 5 years from now, 10 years from now, looking back and saying, thank God we didn't make that the most important thing going on, and we left room for a future where we're on the other side of this emergency and we're fine, we're good.
Yeah. That speaks volume in terms of perspective, how we can keep going on. But let's just look at it from this point of view too. Parenting is a major stressor when we have not aligned our parenting style. It becomes a major stressor where you want to parent the kids a certain way. Somebody wants to just spoil them, let them have fun, let them anything
Give
they
them
want.
everything I didn't have when I was growing up.
Yes.
Versus
While somebody feels like, look,
discipline.
Sit there, you sit there. If you don't do that, you go to detention, and all that. And somebody is saying, look, let the children be children, or just agreeing on the kind of school they should go. Somebody says, let them go to public school. Somebody says, no, it has to be private. And somebody is saying, can we really afford it? And then all that stress, or different kinds of things.
Yeah.
What extracurricular should they do? Which one should they not do? Somebody says, no, I want my children to be involved in sports. They must do, and somebody say, no, let them exercise their mind as well.
Something I found, especially from our own particular experience, sometimes in a bid to give your children the opportunities that you didn't have growing up, sometimes we begin to live out our own dreams and expectations through them, rather than what is in the best interest of the child. I don't know if I'm explaining it properly, but as a child, I felt I didn't get to do this or that, and suddenly I must make sure my child is at every single event that looks like this. And sometimes your spouse is worn out, the child herself is worn out, and we're pulling each other in different directions on this parenting journey over things that really ought not to be. So I hear you 100% about aligning objectives. I really agree that that's where to start. Yeah. Because if we determine for ourselves, maybe even before the children come, I think the best time to agree your parenting style, or maybe try and design your parenting journey, is even before the children come. So just in case you're watching right now and maybe you're in that waiting season, you're trusting that you will have children and it just feels like, you're just in that waiting space. Use this time well. Begin now to really determine, okay, what sort of plans, how can we align our views?
Yeah,
what kind of outcomes do we
want? That's the word I'm looking for.
What kind of child do we want to build?
Yeah.
Well, build, I use the term build lightly, but
Yeah, what kind of outcomes do we want from our parenting? Because when we agree on that, if I say something or decide to go a particular way with the way I'm parenting the kids, and we both can see that this may not necessarily deliver our
what we want,
outcome, what we have agreed, then it's easy for me to backtrack and just allow a superior idea that can deliver on that outcome. I know it's still kind of tricky because sometimes you get to a point where I feel my idea can deliver the outcome, you feel your idea can deliver the outcome, and then we'll look at ourselves and say, okay, so which one should we go with? Those are seasons where you can be so stressed out just trying to make a decision, but let's always think less of our ego and ourselves, but think more about what is in the best interest of the child. These children are not just a game of cards that we're playing, and the outcome of their lives depend, not totally, but in some percentage on us and the quality of the decisions we're making today, and whether we're making those decisions in harmony or not, because the execution will be affected if we have not harmonized our views. And all this,
and it's as simple as, sometimes our children, they're so very smart. They can tell which parent is the softie and which parent, is more hardline, And once they determine that, okay, I'm likely to get a yes out of this parent, Can I have a snack before dinner? Knowing fully well that if I have that snack, that's bye-bye to healthy eating for that day. They know who the soft parent is, and they know how to find their way. And then this happens, and suddenly we're facing each other, arguing or maybe quarreling over something that child deliberately orchestrated because they knew what they wanted going in, right?
Yeah.
But how about if we take a step back and we have agreed? Once we see those loopholes, we know the kids know where the loopholes and, for want of a better term, the mumu buttons, forgive me, that's a local parlance. They know where those buttons are. We block the loopholes and we determine, okay, you know what? To get a yes in this situation, you must get 2 yeses. Even if I say yes, it's determined by the yes you get from the other parent. You've blocked a loophole there. You've stopped a child from playing you against each other. You've stopped a child from using your different parenting styles to weaponize your conversations with each other. And you've gotten together on an issue to insist that we're going to parent these children together.
Yeah, if we will just have more conversations and align perspective and opinions, we will reduce how parenting can be a stressor to a marriage. And I think, especially from the last thing Bola just spoke about, you understand that it's always better to harmonize. So that these children don't even take advantage of us. Because at the end of the day, we start to argue, it affects our relationship. They have fun, go to bed, enjoy themselves.
They've gotten what they wanted.
They've gotten what they wanted, and they don't even know the impact of it on our own relationship. It's in our best interest that after the kids have been trained and they've gone, we don't become strangers.
Exactly.
And we don't pack
still
our
have something that's solid.
Yeah, we don't pack our load and say, no, we are done too. Yeah, as if the whole marriage is about.
That literally is what I was going to say. There are some marriages that is strictly about the children, and you see them sometimes when the children are 23, 24. That's when someone says, you know what, I'm done. I was doing this for the children anyway. And I really pray you don't have that kind of marriage, that you will do the work you need to do right now to keep on choosing each other.
Yeah.
That every day you wake up and in the middle of all the decisions you need to make about parenting, about what schools to go to, about what extracurriculars, even about career choices for the children, I pray that you continue to remember that when all is said and done, the marriage has to be the foundation on which you layer whatever else you're building on. And if you continue to choose each other with your daily decisions, with your daily actions, with your choices, with your parenting style, then the marriage will be left standing. Even when you go through those seasons of life and then the children leave eventually, the marriage will be like that solid rock that keeps standing even when the storms beat against it.
Yeah, so it's on that note of choosing each other. I just wanted to know also that I choose you.
Oh, you'd better choose me.
Over and
you
above.
don't have a choice.
Our girls, yeah.
You're going to choose me anyhow.
Enjoy it. No. So I choose you. I choose you over and again and above the children. Yes. And it's the same recommendation we're making, to all of you. Choose yourselves over and above each other. Yeah, choose each other over the children, and that will help you to know that one day the kids will be out. We want to build something that will outlive their presence within our space, so that even when they're out there gone building their own family, this family still continues to exist.
Just for like a minute or so, I just want us to try and address something, because I see this happen a lot more in this dispensation we're in, where a family can choose, for example, that one parent will live closer to the children in a season of life they're in, just to support their children who may have traveled far away from home, or maybe in one of the cultural contexts that we are familiar with, when a woman gives birth, for example, and her mom comes to stay with them for an extended period usually. In that context of, parenting and not allowing those different seasons to tear us apart, What would you really say about those kind of contexts?
I think it's still more about what is in the best interest of our marriage. Because whether you're parenting adults or you're parenting young children, if you choose yourselves, above them.
Choosing each other.
Yeah, if you choose each other above them, then it still works. Because somebody just had a baby, an adult child of yours, and you want to go and help, and the woman ordinarily is the one that goes, and the man needs certain level of help then.
My husband used to say when we first got married that he would go along with me if I thought I was going to go away for an extended period.
No, there's no extended period because we are not the parents.
Exactly.
We are grandparents. So when we come to that point, we are not the parents, we are grandparents. So there's no extended period. You just go like 1 week to help them and then continue, because when we had them, our own kids, nobody came to spend 6 months in my house. So,
well, not 6 months.
Yeah, but so I'm not going to do that for
anybody. But we had the grandparents for at least a month.
Yeah, so a month is still manageable.
Okay. We matured.
No,
we started,
it's not like a month
was not even on the table.
No, it's not like a month is manageable, so you go for 1 month. I'm not saying that I've agreed to that. No, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to live my life for anybody, So it depends on the situation at hand at that time. If I feel it's in our best interest for us to be together, we can go there, spend 1 week with them, and God help you, or 2 weeks, and God help you take care of your children. We're just grandparents. Grandparent roles are different from parent role. Parent your children yourself.
So just to throw a bit of controversy in there, I remember when my older sister had her, I don't remember if it was her first or second, there were some health complications there, and she needed extended care. So my mom had to stay with her for a little longer than she would typically stay, when you had, one of her grandbabies. So I know that different contexts will require different treatment. But if you don't take anything else from this conversation, please take away the conversation we had about aligning your objectives, doing the work before the work comes, of sitting down together to agree what is in the best interest of our marriage, what's in the best interest of, the marriage that we are building, to the extent that we will still be standing 10 years, 20 years, 30 years into the horizon.
Yeah, so on that note, we want to bring the conversation in this episode to an end. Bola just gave a good recap, and all I have to say to it is that focus on each other. Yeah, focus on each other.
Focus on me.
Yeah, focus on each other.
Focus on me.
I'm focusing on you. Focus on each other, and allow enough intentionality into how you build your relationship, even as you parent together. And with that, you are able to build something that is strong and that will outlive the time that the children will spend within your space, so that when they become adults and set up their own family, your own marriage will not disintegrate when they are trying to build their own marriage. In fact, that's the only way you can have the opportunity of mentoring them in their own marriage, when you have been able to sustain your own marriage, because it shows that you know how to put it on a sustainable pathway. Until we come your way again on another episode of the Better Us series, I want you to know that your love life can get better, it can get sweeter, and you just need to keep putting more effort. Listen to this with your spouse, share this with a few friends, hang around and just discuss on how they're doing with parenting, and whether it's pulling them together or pulling them apart. Share your own experience with them, and before you know it, you'll pull yourself into a support group where you can all encourage each other to keep building your marital relationship even as you parent your children. It's not either or. We can do both together on a sustainable way. Until we come your way again, remain loving, remain caring, and you'll have a better marriage. God bless you.